Hello, everybody, and welcome to the third episode of Moonday Musings. So, lunar and seasonal self care for the week ahead. I think I say those the other way around each time it changes. So, apologies. I'm really sniffly, and I've got a really kind of croaky voice. So I'm going to try my best to deliver this video, but it may be cut short. Yeah, if my voice gives up. So yes, it feels as if we are well and truly into autumn now. Lots of sniffles going round. Orla just seems, so my little girl just seems to be picking up one thing after another, which just naturally leads to me picking up one thing after another. And I've even this year been really trying to to look after myself. I've been doing the elderberry syrup, I've got local honey, I've been eating bee pollen, I've been, making sure that I've been eating really nourishing breakfasts and lots of like cinnamon and ginger and lemon in hot water. And sometimes you just get sick, don't you? It just happens. So yeah, that's kind of where I'm meeting you at today. So sniffly, very tired, and really looking at how I can create some space this week for rest. And I really feel I'm really craving quiet this week, which is interesting and intuitive. It makes a lot of sense because what we're going to be talking about today in this episode is what I refer to as lunar winter. So we are approaching the dark phase of the moon. We are now kind of getting into that last aspect of the lunar cycle before it will begin again with the new moon next week. So it's interesting if you feel this call to just be quiet and you want to be on your own a bit more. You want to not have as much stimulation. So I find that when I'm getting into these weeks where it's the waning crescent moon into the dark moon, that I just want to like read more than I want to watch TV. I want to have a lot of quiet, a lot of things, time for reflection, and just not very social at all. So I should say I'm speaking to you today on the 17th of October. And today is actually the final quarter moon. So really, when the moon gets to this point, this is your kind of signal, if you like, that it's time to really make your preparations for going back to your cave and returning to the moon cave. A little bit like, so this phase of the moon is really similar to the autumn equinox. So that moment of balance. So when we look up at the night sky and you can see that the moon is half illuminated and half in darkness, and then after this point it's going to be in its darker aspect and then almost completely disappearing. We can take that as an invitation that it's time to make the preparations, really look at your diary and see what can go, see what can be stripped back and edited, and make those preparations for rest, for quiet, and for tending your emotional needs. So the moon today is in the sign of Cancer. So this is the sign of the mother. It's very much about being kind of cared for and nurtured and nourished, and really asking us how we can do that for ourselves. Yeah, so you may have found as the moon has been in Cancer that it has been bringing some of that stuff up for you, like the vulnerability and sensitivity and emotional needs being met or not being met, and then really needing to ask for those needs to be met, or to put things in place to care for and support yourself. So I think I mentioned this in the last episode. So the water signs always really affect me. So particularly Cancer and Pisces in a very emotional way. So I found today and yesterday, very, very emotional. I've been very, very teary, felt very, very vulnerable. And actually we'd been in a couple of public spaces over the weekend that were quite busy. And I just thought, this wasn't the best call, because I feel like I don't want to be seen. I felt like I just wanted to be more inward and more quiet and be in busyness and busy social situations was really difficult for me. So as I've mentioned before, it's really, really interesting when you start to learn about the moon cycle and your personal response to the different signs. And you may or may not be able to look at that and go, oh, okay, it's a moon in Cancer weekend. I think perhaps I'm not going to do that thing, or maybe I need to make sure that I've got some time for myself, or some time for kind of self-care. And then when we shift, so we'll be shifting tomorrow into Leo. Leo is very social. It's a fire sign. It's creative, can be quite energetic, can be quite childlike. And so we may feel that there's a shift tomorrow, and we feel like things are a little bit easier. We feel like we're able to be seen a little bit more, just because the moon is shifting. Yeah. So yeah, always make a note of these things in your lunar journals so that you can keep circling back, and noticing these patterns, and how you're influenced and affected by all these goings on. So we have, yes, as I said, today's the final quarter moon, and then tomorrow we're going to be shifting into the waning crescent moon. So just beginning to get into that more of a sliver of light. And the moon is going to stay in Leo until Friday. So we've got Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday in Leo. So hopefully a bit of a lighter energy, even though we'll probably still feel quite tired and feel quite quiet. And then we're going to shift into Virgo on Friday and Saturday. And then on Sunday, we're going to be welcoming in the dark moon in Libra. Okay, so we began this lunar cycle with the new moon in Libra. So the way that I work with the moon cycle is when we get back to the moon in that sign, that's your signal, your indication that this cycle is closing down and that we're now in the dark moon. So you can use your new moon in Libra and your dark moon in Libra to close down that cycle. So what's really nice to do is, if you have been setting intentions, is to look back at your new moon in Libra intentions, and you use the dark moon days to really reflect. So read your intentions, look back at the months. What have you learned? What have you felt? What has happened? What do you really want to let go of? So the dark moon phase is this beautiful liminal space between the end of one cycle and the start of the next. Some people treat the dark moon as just the day before a new moon. Some people will have it as 3 or 4 days before. I've even heard people talk about it as more of a week. So it's very, very personal. It's always, intuitive and what it feels like to you. For me personally, I've sort of shifted. It used to be sort of the 3 days before the new moon, but now I'm sort of treating it as like I said, when the moon gets back into the sign that the new moon was in, I really honor it as that. So dark moon in, for this time, for example, Libra. So yeah, see what works for you. But the most important thing, I guess, is to acknowledge and understand that there is a difference between the dark moon and the new moon, because I think that is still really missed out in a lot of lunar teachings. And the dark moon and the new moon are sometimes synonymous. So treated as if they're the same thing, or the dark moon is just not mentioned. And they really are quite different. The dark moon, as the name suggests, is when we when we look up at the night sky and we can't see the moon at all, so no moon is appearing, the new moon is, as the name suggests, the new moon. So it is that tiny, tiny, almost not visible little slither of light that signifies the new cycle. So it will be in that new sign, that we're then carrying forward. So, for example, next week, on Tuesday next week, it will be the new moon in Scorpio. However, it is a new moon solar eclipse. So we are going to be starting eclipse season next week. And Scorpio season begins on Sunday as well. So the sun is moving into Scorpio on Sunday ahead of an eclipse. And and then we've got Mars going retrograde at the end of October as well. So we could be in for some fairly interesting energy, interesting things happening. But yeah, so have a look on Sunday. Yeah, I would really make time and space to reflect on this current cycle. What has Libra revealed to you and shown you? How have you felt Libra season moving through your life? And what lessons do you want to take with you into the next cycle? And what do you want to let go of? Are there any things that have happened that you think that's, maybe some conflict where you're like, it's resolved and I really just want to let go of it now? It needs forgiveness, it needs healing, it just needs letting go. I don't want to take that with me into the next month, into the next moons, should I say. So really the qualities of this week are, as I said right at the start, it's preparation for rest. Yeah, so we want to be ideally trying to really slow down in this final waning phase of the moon into the dark moon, and use it as a time to really give back and nourish yourself. There's so much focus on the new moon and the full moon, these kind of peak energy times of the cycle, where we're either setting intentions and we're looking ahead and we're looking forward to the months, and we're getting into all of the astrology. The full moon is celebration and embodiment and maybe ritual. Maybe we attend particular events on a full moon, like lots of people who do like cacao ceremonies or dance, or in my case the lunar flow that me and Richard do. And then I think we sometimes we skip over this part of the moon cycle, the 2 weeks of the waning phase, and there's a lot of magic here. There's a lot of missed opportunity here if we don't fully embrace it. And it's kind of interesting that we don't embrace it, because we, as as an overculture, we tend to skip wintering. We don't really honor menstruation and resting at that time, and we don't really honor this dark moon phase. So we have a lot of reliance on electricity and technology, and so we can keep working all the way through. So what I would really invite you to do around the dark moon days is to try and invite the darkness in. So maybe not having as many electrical things on, candles, doing things like yoga nidra or restorative yoga, where it's really dark room and you just have maybe some like fairy lights on or a few candles, and really try and invite and immerse yourself into that darkness. And remember, that is part of our ancestry, that before electricity, before all of this convenience, people would have lived with these rhythms because they wouldn't have been able to do as much, particularly in winter. If you think of the dark moon phase in winter, that means a shorter day of sunlight and then no moonlight. So they would have naturally done less, and it would have been much like the months of winter. It would have been gather around the fire, storytelling, magic, leaning in to the mysteries and rest, like resting, taking stock. So yeah, that would be my invitation, and we'll talk a little bit more about this next Monday, because we'll be honoring the dark moon on Monday next week as well. But have a little think about that this week, and how you can honor this waning phase of the moon. It's a great time for cleansing, releasing, thinking of those practices around the house again. You know, we're now approaching the end of a cycle. Do you want to cleanse your home? You know, getting rid of the end of that cycle in that way. So maybe cleansing the home with smoke, lighting incense, putting beautiful candles in each room to set the space up for the next month. Thinking particularly about energetic protection as well. So as we move into eclipse season, as we move into another retrograde, and as we start to approach the Samhain portal, you know, really thinking about not just cleansing your space, but how can I put things in my home that are going to help me protect my energy. So thinking of crystals that might help with that, maybe boundary blends, particular oils or incense that you can have on. Because of course Samhain is a time that people believed very, very strongly was a time when the veils thinned, that thinned more than any other time of the year, and this meant spirits could walk amongst people. It meant the dead would return, and then also this presence of mischievous spirits as well, which is why people did so much to protect their homes and create things that looked scary as ways to repel these mischievous spirits. So thinking along those lines as well, and yeah, how you can protect your energy, protect your peace, and protect your rest as well. So I pulled us a card for this week, a different deck this time. Let me just have a little slip of my tea. So I bought this deck last year, I think. So it's this spellcasting deck. And it's by Flavia, Kate Peters, and Barbara Michael John Free. And well, I'm a sucker for a cover anyway with books or oracle decks. So I spotted this and at a pagan craft fair that I was taking part in, and this woman's store was next to mine, so I kept seeing things. And I spied this and thought, oh, that's really lovely. But then the deck is really, really beautiful. So the back of the cards, those of you on watching this on YouTube rather than listening as a podcast, the back of the cards is just really beautiful. Those of you listening, it's like it's got this kind of almost like Bealtainer vibe to it, you know, with the pentagram and all these colors that look very spring-like. But yeah, so I love the cards, and then I pulled us a card for this week, and it is actually the same image that's on the front of the box, and it's manifestation. So let me read about this card and then just see if it lands with you. So magical guidance for this card is the alchemist within urges you to reawaken your powerful manifestation abilities. Demonstrating a strong will and focus will drive your desires into fruition, with a little magical help, of course. As you step back into alignment through spell work, invocation, and acknowledging both aspects of your light and shadow self, you become testimony to the wise ones who walked before you. The universe is poised to support you as it reflects your positive intentions. So go and grab your dreams. Reach for your goals as a magical energy surges through you. Everything is yours for the taking and will continue to be so as you add your own magical touch. So I think that's lovely. So yeah, if that is relevant to you, make a note of it, or remind yourself of it throughout the week. And this is the other thing actually with the dark moon, it's really nice to do, is divination. So using that time of rest, using that time of darkness to divine for the new cycle. So you could perhaps do a spread where you're asking what you've learned from this month, like what is the lesson from this cycle. Pick a card. What am I welcoming in with the new cycle, or what lessons are waiting for me? You could do something like that on those dark moon days, which could be really nice. The other thing that I wanted to mention is, and again, if you're listening on the podcast, it might be worth having a quick look on the video at some point, but this beautiful new artwork behind me. So it's interesting when I'm in my office, because often I'm either facing my desk, which is just like if you ever see it, it's just books and oracle decks up to the ceiling and then loads of artwork, and then in front of me is the altar, and then over here is my almost like apothecary. It's got all my crystals, and it's part of my therapy room as well. So for me, when I'm in this room, it's very full and there's lots going on. But what I realized when I was doing these videos is it looked really quite bare behind me. So I've got my beautiful galaxy canvas and my fairy tree, and obviously my lunar bunting. But I thought, oh, I really want something for this big white space behind me when I'm doing my where I'm doing these videos or when I'm teaching online as well. And then I found this. Instagram must have known, as it so often does, that I was looking for something, and then this popped up in an ad. This artist is in the UK, and her brand is called, I think it's moonphasestudio.co.uk. Hope I've got that right. And she does these hand illustrated posters that are basically the entire year in terms of what the moon is doing. And then it's also got all the wheel of the year stuff in there as well. But it's you can't really see the detail here, but it's absolutely exquisite. So I've got my 2023 one up already because it's just gorgeous. But those of you that are wanting to work a little bit more with the moon, I would really recommend something like that, when you can just look at it really quickly. You can see what the phase of the moon is, where you are seasonally, what sign you're in. It's a really, really good anchor point. So yeah, I'm really, really pleased with this. So yeah, do have a look if you're interested. Thought they'd be really good Christmas presents for people as well. Dare I mention Christmas? And actually, I am going to mention Christmas. I am going to mention December, because one of the things that I wanted to talk to you about just briefly today, because I think I'm going to do a separate video about books to read ahead of midwinter, and how to really get the magic out of this time of year. But one thing that I wanted to just briefly mention today, because I've been doing this morning. So if you haven't read Merry Midwinter by Gillian Monks, then I can't really recommend it enough. We read this a few years ago in book club and we fell in love with it. So I think it was, I think we read it around, I think it must have been the first Christmas of lockdown. So we needed some comfort and we needed some magic. And we, as a group, we sort of did a lot of the practices that she suggests, and the recipes and the craft projects and stuff. But what's really interesting about this book is it actually begins at Samhain. So don't leave it to December, because one of the things that she talks about in this book is stretching out the magic of this time of year. And I actually, before we did it in book club, I had read this before. So I think I've been reading this every year for about 4 years because I just adore it. But the things that I have implemented since reading this book have really changed things for me significantly in how I view this time of year, and how really from Samhain the magic just kind of just keeps growing and growing. I think Samhain is an incredibly magical time of year anyway. For me personally, I feel very, very close to my ancestors at this time of year, with Samhain being an Irish festival. It just feels like such a time to honor that, and to have pride in that, and to feel that closeness, and learning about the different variations of that festival all throughout the British Isles, all with different names. It's really interesting, in such a nice way to draw close if you have this heritage. So I love it anyway, as I said. But then her Chilean monks takes you through from Samhain through November, through December, through January as well, and all the kind of significant days that you can honor, particular rituals. It's just wonderful. And I think if you're feeling a bit heavy about things, as I know so many of us are right now, if you just need something that makes you believe in the goodness of people and is heartwarming and comforting, then really, really recommend this book. So what I've been doing this morning is I've got my my planner out, my diary out, and I've just been going through and putting in the dates of things that she's suggested, and then dates that I'm like, oh, I really want to bake that then, or I want to do this here. And to me, that feels like a very nice kind of waning into dark moon thing to do as well. I like to use this time to think about the next month and what I want, what I need, what's important, collect images from my journals and my planners. And yeah, it's really a time to come home to yourself, which Cancer again is all about. So yeah, I just wanted to share that with you. And then those of you that are in book club and remember reading this, then it's just a reminder that the book starts at Samhain. It's a very loud vehicle going past. So yeah, if you do like to read it every year, it's just a reminder to get it off your shelf and start to reread it. So I think I think that's everything for today. I don't know if my voice is going to last much longer anyway. So yeah, just take care of yourselves this week. Slow down as much as you can. And what we'll be talking about next week, so when we check back in on Monday next week, we'll be looking at the dark moon in a little bit more detail, but we're going to be talking about the new moon in Scorpio and the solar eclipse and Scorpio season as well. So we've got all of that to look forward to next week. And then the week after, we'll be talking about Samhain and how to infuse the week ahead with that beautiful Samhain portal. So I think I've covered everything that I wanted to say. Again, thank you so much for those of you that have messaged me to say that you're enjoying these episodes. It's really lovely to hear that. And the free Persephone course that I mentioned that I was going to do is live now. So I've had quite a few people sign up to that, so thank you very much. And I will put the link here underneath this episode. So if you want to join in, it's completely free. There's a guided meditation. There's some bits and pieces to get into the Persephone myth in a little bit more detail if you'd like to. So yeah, it's just a little something to help you connect with the magic of this time of year, and to really step into your enchantress, wild woman, witch archetype, which is all about autumn and winter, you know. So yeah, enjoy that. And I will have a full length podcast coming out soon as well about November and Samhain as well. So I'll get that out as soon as I can. All right, everyone. Well, take care. Thank you so much for listening or watching or both. And I will see you very soon. All right. Thank you.